Few universities are doing as much work in areas related to national security as Penn State. And this goes back for a long time with our university. Certainly as a land-grant university, we've always had training in what we today call the Reserve Officer Training Corps, and that was a connection with the Defense Department. But in more recent history, following World War II, Penn State has been one of the leading developers of technology for the United States Navy, and we've worked with the Marine Corps, Homeland Security, and a broad range of other federal agencies through our Applied Research Laboratory and other units of the university increasingly.
Well, the history of Homeland Security obviously started on September 11th, 2001. Here at Penn State, we actually predate that day with significant things that we were doing in the arena of Homeland Security.
We recognized that Penn State had a lot of expertise that could be applied to solving Homeland Security problems.
So in a sense, what's sort of happening now is simply a focusing of Penn State's efforts in Homeland Security for the application of Homeland Security, but research that's been going on for a long time.
When we look at the initiative, it breaks down really along two lines. Homeland Security and Defense requires what we call hard technology, things like sensors, electro-optics, radar systems, listening devices, and so forth. And then soft technology, and soft technology includes decision support systems, knowledge management systems, integration of knowledge, asset allocation, simulation even. And what we've tried to do is to build both of these pieces with the ultimate goal of bringing them together eventually.
The Applied Research Laboratory is a defense-oriented research laboratory that's been here at Penn State for going on 62 years. Some of the areas that we focus on are communications and information systems, materials and manufacturing, underwater vehicles, robotic systems for use underwater, fluid dynamics, hydrodynamics, and acoustics is another major area of our focus.
In my lab, we have a couple of major topics that are Homeland Security related: sniffers and portals for the detection of trace explosives. Basically, we're trying to understand how the dog's nose works, because the dog is a very excellent sniffer, and nature solved this problem. If we can solve it, then we can make devices that will mimic what a dog does. The portal is a device that is an aviation security station in an airport. The idea is to be able to sample the air around people, inside cargo containers, and detect explosives, drugs, and so forth. If we can detect trace explosives, then this makes transportation safer. That's what drives this research. Already, the portal detectors are in use, and in fact, here at Penn State, we invented one. It was licensed to a commercial firm, and these are already in airports.
Insect antennae are really designed over evolutionary time to absorb small molecules with a tremendous efficiency. And in Homeland Security, detection is the main thing. Detecting threats. Knowledge about insect olfaction, how they absorb these chemicals, how they process them, and then how we can mimic them to have good attractants and detection sensors, traps out there is a huge effort. Most of the target explosives that are being looked at are mixtures, complex mixtures. Well, that's our specialty. That's the moth, that's the insect specialty.
Penn State is building models for Lagrangian particle dispersion that are models that would be very accurate of possible dispersion of contaminant. It would be very useful within a city or within rural areas. If a terrorist, for instance, were to release a contaminant into the air, then the security agencies would have to model where it goes so that the managers who are making decisions on how to evacuate people, how to mitigate the source, etc., would know where the contaminant will be in the future. So to do that, they need models of the atmosphere and then models of the dispersion of the pollutant, and we help build and validate those models.
The idea behind this, really in general, is to be able to go all the way from physics-based modeling on through to social and dynamic modeling, on through to decision support systems and knowledge management for mitigation and response. Let's imagine that we have an incident such as a refinery explosion induced by some sort of terrorist attack. We can analyze the region for its assets and populations using geographical information systems, then compute the contamination effects and the dispersion of those contaminations with physics-based models, which lead right into human effects models for physiological responses, and ultimately into social psychological models, which tell us how crowds and people will begin to behave. Once we understand all of those behaviors, then we could begin to put together a mitigation strategy and use decision support systems to really help and aid in implementing that strategy. And ultimately, then we could begin to grade the response that we've taken to this incident. And eventually, we think we ought to be able to go around this loop many, many times with different kinds of scenarios and actually provide communities and municipalities with a way of assessing rather inexpensively and rather quickly their own plans for responding to these kinds of events and improving them.
Penn State is a known performer. We have a proven track record of service to the government, research programs with the government, and we believe that we have a very good story to tell.
If you think historically about this university, it started on the foundation of trying to create safe and abundant food supply. And this, in some ways, is just the ultimate extension of that land-grant mission.
Penn State is a leader in research and teaching related to national security, and it is a role that we expect to continue to play in the years to come. And I'm very proud of the faculty who work here and who've been assembled here over the recent years to help fulfill this mission. And I think we do have a lot to contribute.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.